All right, the calendar now says 2010, but the failed Christmas Day terror attack shows that the Obama administration is stuck in 1999. Now, this administration has reverted back to a pre-9/11 mentality. It has redefined terrorists as criminals and terror attacks as man-caused disasters. Now, for more than 3 days after the incident, President Obama remained silent and continued his vacation on the beaches of Hawaii. And if that doesn't tell you where fighting terrorism falls on the commander-in-chief's list of priorities, well, nothing will. Let's take a closer look at how this White House responded in recent days. The Christmas Day attempted bombing of a Northwest Airlines flight from Nigeria to Amsterdam to Detroit may have been a close call, but the failed attempt has left many asking, how could the Obama administration have let it come that close? Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano tried to convince us that Omar Farouk Abdul Muttalib's attempt failed because
the system worked.
Her laughable explanation had many enraged and now has critics from both sides of the aisle calling for her to step down, including New Jersey State Senate President, Democrat Richard Cody. Since absolutely no one bought Napolitano's absurd claim, Obama's top counterterrorism advisor, John Brennan, was sent on the Sunday show circuit this weekend to try to reset the administration's message.
There was no smoking gun. There was no piece of intelligence that said this guy's a terrorist, is going to get on a plane.
While there may not have been a specific smoking gun, there were more than enough clues that this guy spelled trouble. First, his father went to the U.S. Embassy and CIA officials in Lagos with concerns about his son and his extremist tendencies. That information was slowly but surely passed along to counterintelligence officials here in the States who did nothing with it. In addition, it was recently revealed that the CIA knew a month before the attempted attack that the crotch bomber had possible ties to Yemen-based extremists and that he had spent time in Yemen, but no one followed up on any of these warning signs. The UK's top spy agency, MI5, knew he had been talking with London Islamic extremists 3 years ago. Abdul Muttalib had even been banned from Britain due to immigration concerns. Director of National Intelligence Dennis Blair apologized for the lapse in national security in a gross understatement, stating, quote, "It is clear that gaps remain and they must be fixed. It's time the White House gets reschooled in the subject of counterterrorism 101, because clearly neither the system nor this administration is working the way it should." And joining me now with reaction to the return of America's pre-9/11 mentality is author of the New York Times bestseller, former Clinton advisor, Fox News contributor, his website, dickmorris.com. Dick Morris is here. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Here.
Appreciate it. The system worked?
Oh, God, no. We had all the evidence in the world that this guy was a terrorist. We practically, I mean, when the guy's father, who's a distinguished person in Nigeria, tells you his son is going to blow up an airplane and is in Yemen now, and they already have him on a list of 500,000 people. The only reason that he's not on the list of 4,000 people, that was the no-fly list, is that they restricted the size of the list and they cut it back because of people's privacy concerns.
All right, let's examine. The number one job of the president is to keep the country safe. It's not the vacation in Hawaii. It's not to pass health care. Here's my question. Examine and analyze his handling from A to Z in this case.
Everybody is missing the key point here. They're saying the CIA should have shared the information, the FBI should have shared it, they should have told TSA, he should have been put on the list, and so on, and Obama called it a systemic failure. That's not what it is. What it is the result of a political re-education this administration has taken the intelligence community through that says don't profile, don't stick your neck out, don't invade anyone's privacy, and heaven help you if you finger a guy and he doesn't blow something up.
Well, but he also said it was an isolated extremist without having the facts. Look, I think for political reasons...
They tried to sell the idea that the Fort Hood guy was just a deranged guy worried about his being shipped out.
I've spent a lot of time on this program focusing on their characterizing a war on terror as a man-caused disaster or an overseas contingency operation. Right. Isn't this reflective of a mindset that is putting every person out there in danger?
Yes.
No?
Two mindsets. One is that it's not a war, it's just a crime or a disaster. Right. And secondly, that you can't profile, you can't take leaps, you can't make guesses, because if you connect the dots unfairly, you're going to be in trouble.
All right, but now isn't the other big issue here is the fact that they're Mirandizing this guy.
Yeah.
is putting, every American in danger. What does this guy know? Who are his contacts? Who did he meet? He's lawyered up.
Yep.
We can't talk to this guy. We ought to be waterboarding this guy.
Absolutely. This is an exact example of something where his insistence on treating everybody as a civil liberties issue gets in the way of the intelligence. By the way, the information we get after we waterboard him should not be admissible in his criminal trial.
You agree with me? We should waterboard.
Yeah,
and by
should
the way,
not be admissible.
You and I are going to be hammered tomorrow.
No.
On the blogs because we say this guy should be waterboarded.
But, Mr. Blogs, I don't think the evidence that we get from waterboarding him should be admissible in his criminal trial.
I agree.
The Fifth Amendment still exists, but it should be actionable for intelligence to break up other al-Qaeda plots.
Exactly, because we don't know what he knows or what other danger exists out there for America. But here's the deal, Dick. If you wrap a bomb in your underwear, and this is an act of terror, with the background that you have, you've got to assume that this is an act of war.
Yeah.
But this administration doesn't see it that way.
They would have us Mirandizing Germans we captured on the battlefield in World War II.
Well, that'll be the next thing that's on the
blogs. But you know, the other point here is the reason 9/11 happened is that Bill Clinton treated the '93 bombing of the Trade Center as a crime, not as an act of war. And now Obama's going through the exact same situation.
Well, look, I say this often. The 9/11 Commission report, if we got one thing out of it, they are at war with us. We're not at war with them. All right, let me ask you what this means politically. Number of Democrats, Scott Rasmussen, has now fallen to a new low, down another 6 points.
Right.
Congress is in the 20s.
Yep.
Reid is in the 30s. Pelosi's in the 20s. Democrats, right track, wrong track, generic
Obama's
ballot.
down to 46.
Obama's down. What does this mean? I think we're in one of the most important election cycles ever in our lifetime.
I think that, yes, we are. And I think that if we don't take our country back in 2010, it's not going to be there for us to take back. The important point, though, I believe about this, is that the country just got a crash course in how fraudulent the idea of a moderate Democrat is. That there aren't any. It don't exist.
Thank you.
There are Democrats and there are Republicans. Now, I used to be one of them. I used to be a conservative Democrat. I'm not anymore because it doesn't exist.
It don't exist.
You're either a Pelosi, Reid, Obama Democrat or you're a Republican.
You've got to do a little, Sean, you were right. Because, and by the way, I applaud your efforts. Because you really thought there was a chance to pick off either a Ben Nelson or a Blanche Lincoln or one of these so-called conservative Democrats. Yep. I didn't think so. Because I knew once the arm twisting began, once the money started to flow, it would be very hard for them to say no.
It represents more than just an optimism on my part. It represents a fundamental change in our politics. That there is no such thing as an independent Democrat. If you're a Democrat, you're a Democrat, you're a Democrat, and that's all you can be.
Was this, because every American now is going to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to these states just to buy off, cash for cloture, as they call it. Is that bribery?
Yeah.
Or even worse because it's other people's money?
Oh, I think it is bribery, but I'm interested in what will come out in the next couple of years. I want to know what the net worth of these folks is going to be. I want to follow it in 11 and 12 and go back and say why from 9 to 10 did you experience a huge uptick in your net worth?
That's a great question. Now I won't ask you about this. We got Karl Rove coming up next, but you know this TSA nominee basically lied himself. He was looking into the backgrounds of people. Did you hear about that?
Yep. It's great for a nominee for a guy who's going to have access to every background check in the world that he was able to go through it to catch his wife's ex-lover.
His wife's boyfriend. Yeah.
That's terrific.
We're going to get to this.
If the guy were running for head of, the Treasury Department, not Treasury, or, Labor Department, or Commerce, it's TSA. Yeah. He'll have access to everything.
Listen, we have a tax cheat running the IRS, Dick. You might not have heard about it.
But, Sean, don't worry about it. Nobody's on that no-fly list.
Dick Morris, appreciate it. And we'll get into that story.